guys, it's Danny. Today we're gonna take a look at my Tolumnia collection. I have a few new ones and it's also time to update you a little bit on the older ones. And also I will tell you a little bit about my experience with these orchids because I've been through a lot with them. I actually lost my entire former Tolumnia collection about 2 years ago when I did a very big cultural boo-boo. All is well when it ends well, and Tolumnias are really some of my favorite orchids because they're very tiny and space saving, but their blooms and flower spikes and flower display overall is oftentimes bigger than the plant itself. And I have always dreamed to have this wonderful big Tolumnia collection because they're actually really easy to take care of. They have a bit of a bad reputation, which I will address today. And I will also try to insert pictures of the new Tolumnias that I got wherever I can. So that said, let's just start with the newest Tolumnias to my collection, which is about half of what you see here. So first little Tolumnia is the Tolumnia Snow Carmine. It is a wonderful whitish colored Tolumnia with dark burgundy spots. It's a little bit of a harlequin if we think at the Phalaenopsis with the same pattern, but I think it looks much better on a Tolumnia. This one had a new growth which sadly had a little issue on transport, and I can see that the middle leaf is completely dry. So I don't believe this growth will continue to grow, but I do hope that there will be a new growth sprouting from the mother fan. There is no point in showing you roots because there aren't any. One thing that I have learned about Tolumnias in all of these years of just purchasing and having all sorts of transports and also my experience growing them is that they don't tolerate drought all too well. And I know that many articles or growers will make you think that they cannot handle moisture or that they would rather be dry than wet, just like a Cattleya. I have not found that to be true in this climate or in my older climate, which was cooler than this. So I know that whenever I receive Tolumnias, especially bare rooted in those baskets, I will have a lot of roots to cut away. And from these Tolumnias, which were now potted, I cut away many desiccated roots. There isn't much to work with, but the good news is Tolumnias are pretty quick to produce roots. So I would definitely be mindful of that if you know your climate is a little too dry or a little too hot. In high humidity or cooler environments, it might definitely not be an issue, but especially in winter, we do tend to heat up our homes and that does tend to dry out the air. So it's something to keep in mind. If you have a Tolumnia in a heated home, don't let it go bone dry for way too many days. When it's dry, give it a good watering. Next up is a Tolumnia that I really hope is not mislabeled. It's the red crystal, and as the name suggests, it's supposed to be rather reddish or orangish in color. I've never had such a color on a Tolumnia, so yeah, fingers crossed. But these orchids are coming from eBay, so you never know. With this one, I had the older growth die off. This is another thing that happens especially on long transports with Tolumnias. The fans are really prone to rotting off if they are packed wet, because in that box without proper ventilation and proper air, pathogens will proliferate and yeah, they're very sensitive to crown rot, as it were. But these orchids are sympodials, they're not monopodials, so even if you lose a fan or two, but you have other fans, things are pretty okay. And typically the orchid will be okay as long as some of the fans are still alive. So again, I don't think there is any root to show you with this one either, yeah. And it's a shame because I really want this orchid to survive, but I'm doing my best. Chances are it will be absolutely fine, but you never know in these situations. I'll be happy when I see a new growth developing or some roots growing. Next up, another orangey looking like Tolumnia, but a different shade. This is Tolumnia Karat, and this one fared a little bit better on transport, although I did lose some of the older growths, can you see here? But I'm hoping that the base or the rhizome is okay and I can have new growth sprouting from this, or at least roots. It's impossible for me to tell which is the direction of growth at this point because everything looks pretty much the same. I cannot really tell which is the older growth, and also there are no roots. And these are not alive anymore, they're actually dried. I left them on because I hoped they would still have some substance in them, but they don't, so I need to cut them off. But it does look pretty okay, considering that I do have these orchids for maybe about 2 weeks now, and they're not looking incredibly shriveled. There might be a few good roots in the medium, So I really hope that this one will be okay as well. So these are coming from eBay. Sadly, they spent a lot on transport and that wasn't very great, but they have great chances of recovering. Now let me show you the Orchids Deluxe ones. These ones are actually in better shape. They didn't spend all that much time on transport either. The best looking one is the Tolumnia Orchids Firm White, which on the Orchids Deluxe website looks really pretty. It has a dark center, and you know me, I like contrasts, but if you look up pictures on the internet with this orchid, you can have variable flowers, and that's the thing with Tolumnias. They can be quite variable. So what type of pattern do I have exactly? I don't know, but I hope I will find out soon because I have a flower spike here. This orchid actually has roots, and you can see a few of them on the surface. You cannot really see anything here because I just repotted this orchid, but there are roots inside. This one does have roots. It has a lot of new growth, as I can see. It had a spent flower spike, which was very tall, and I cut it off. And I'm happy it has another one which is just developing and fared very well on transport. One thing that you'll notice with all of these Tolumnias is that they're not all identical. Some will have rather broad leaves, some will be taller, some will have very thin leaves, and I have one which looks a little bit like a Neophonetia. All of these are hybrids, so of course depending on what parentage they have, they will look slightly different. Flower-wise, they have the exact same shape, all of them, very little variation, but there is a lot of variation in color and pattern, which is why many of us want to have a numerous Tolumnia collection. It's also easy because they're so tiny. Next, one of my all-time loves. I had this one and I lost it. It was my favorite one, the Gyrac Flyer Corona. And with this one, I actually have footage. Now, I'm not entirely sure if it will be exactly the same as the one that I had, but I hope so because I really loved that one. The Corona is a very variable hybrid. I've seen pictures looking wildly different between them on the internet. And when my initial one bloomed, it looked nothing like the picture on Shredder. So again, a lot of variability, but I'm hoping that this one will look a little bit similar to the old one that I had. This one is not as advanced and vigorous as the other one. You can see it's a little dehydrated. There are no roots in the pot that you can see, but I do remember I had 1 or 2 roots. It's the weakest one of the ones that I ordered, which is sad because it was the one I wanted the most. But it looks pretty vigorous. All of these fans, they do seem to have energy, so I am hoping that it will pull through with flying colors. Get it? Gyrac Flyer? Flying colors? It's okay, it was a bad joke anyway. Next up, one that I seriously hope will look like the picture because it's magical. This is Tolumnia Gyrac Flyer Magic, and in the picture shown on the website, it looks like it has a nice coral color with a really contrasty yellow center. It's straight up my alley. It's a warm color. I absolutely love it. But with that variation that I was telling you about, I don't know. I don't know if it's gonna look like that. I hope so. Look how pretty this one looks like. It seems to have quite a lot more leaves, I was about to say petals, per fan. And this is something you will notice once again with all of these hybrids. They even have different leaf count per fan. Now this one arrived with only 1 fan, but it's okay. It already bloomed, sadly. Oh, okay, I can't believe I missed this, but it has a viable flower spike. It's not spent. However, it doesn't look so good here. I think this part is not good anymore, and I don't know if it has any nodes. Tolumnias can actually branch out from the nodes. Do you see any node except for this one? There's another node here. Maybe it's gonna branch out. Fingers crossed. But I can't believe I didn't notice this. If you look at it from this angle, you cannot even see the flower spike, and here, well, you can see something, but I thought it was spent. It might have grown a little bit ever since I purchased this one. It's been a few days, but yeah, I'm even more excited right now. It looks very good. There are some roots in the medium, I do remember. So there you have it. You can only have 1 single fan and a flower spike. And the last one from Orchids Deluxe is the Tolumnia Gyrac Flyer Black Magic, which is a very dark brown colored or burgundy colored Tolumnia. We're gonna see. Sometimes pictures don't really reflect true colors. This again wasn't in the best of shapes. I lost the crown of the older growth, but the new growth looks okay. I don't remember if I have much roots. but it's not dehydrated, so that's good. I might have lost some of the roots on transport, but I'm hoping she will be okay. It's really important not to deal with dehydrated orchids. If you have an orchid which suffers already from lack of water and it doesn't have roots, things are twice as hard or twice as bad. So I don't see any wrinkles, which is nice, but yeah, it happens a lot on transport to lose fans on Tolumnias. Alrighty, so those were the newest Tolumnias to my collection, now the older ones. As you might know, one of them actually bloomed, and it has been in bloom for the past 3 months or so. One thing Tolumnias do is branch out and continue their flower spike, and I think this one might actually continue on this branch right here. Pretty much like Phalaenopsis orchids. There is a species which can actually produce keikis. Its hybrids might inherit that trait as well. I did hear that some people got keikis on the nodes of their flower spike. Never happened to me yet, but I'm not ruling out the possibility. This one is a no ID Tolumnia. Fun thing that Tolumnias do sometimes, Tolumnias do a lot of things by the way, is that they can bloom differently on the same flower spike. For example, when this one first bloomed, the flowers were really baby pink or lavender like this. Well, the branches had a really nice deep purple color and the flowers were a little bit bigger. Can you see? Well, this is not the first Tolumnia that does this for me. In the past, I had an orange one which bloomed both yellow and orange on the very same flower spike and pretty much at the same time. And that is a very, very interesting trait to me because you never know what you're gonna get when it blooms, right? This Tolumnia is a little bit older in my collection. It has already a year in my care and it is looking pretty great. It only grew one fan ever since I got it, which is this one that bloomed, and I'm pretty sure this summer I will have a much bigger fan from her. In the same swap with Bumblebee, I also received this Tolumnia, and can you see how different this one looks like? It looks like a bean leaf Neofinetia really. It has a very succulent, very thick and rounded leaves in comparison to the other Tolumnias. And this one has been rather finicky for me now in the sense that it grows kind of strange. This growth, which you see right here, I discovered it inside the pot. It grew inside the medium, so I had to unpot the orchid, repot it a little higher on the medium, just so that this new growth has some chances of survival. So it does have a new growth, or actually 2 new growths sprouting here, and this weird new growth. Root-wise, you cannot see it because I just repotted it, but it didn't look all that bad, but not all that great either. You're gonna see some of these Tolumnias have really great roots. This one is different. It just looks different, acts different. It's another no ID, so I'm not sure how it's gonna bloom. It does actually look a little bit closer to one of the species that I know than all of my other hybrids. So I'm not entirely sure if it is a hybrid. It might actually be the species. My biggest Tolumnia and my pride and joy is the Tolumnia Gentin Volcano. It is supposed to have a beautiful flower. I love the color, I love the pattern. I don't know where a long time ago I read it might be fragrant, although these orchids are not known to be fragrant. I just heard rumors, so it just makes me very curious. This one I got last year, and ever since then it has done beautifully. Look how it took over the pot. It has a lot of new growths and has some spent flower spikes on the older growths, so I'm hoping that, bless you dear, I'm hoping that this year it will bloom for me as well because, yeah, I think it kind of doubled in size ever since I got it. Anyway, yeah, it doubled in size ever since I got it. No blooms just yet, but it didn't really have time, so fingers crossed this year that I have blooms on it. Another bushy Tolumnia that I have comes from Orchids Deluxe, but from last year. This is Oncidium Tsiku Charlotte. Now, these orchids used to be called oncidiums, I think equitant oncidiums, back in the day. At some point, they decided to reclassify them, and I'm sure that at the time people didn't like it, but hey, they really don't look like oncidiums, do they, apart from the flower? So this type of reclassification, I kind of welcome. This, I'm not exactly sure how it's supposed to look like. It's super vigorous once again. It is also growing multiple fans. I did find some pictures on the internet. It appears to be yellow, golden with some dots, but I'm not entirely sure. So it's going to be a surprise when it blooms, but it has done beautifully. Is this dry? Yeah. Funny thing, when I received this one, it was potted in full sphagnum moss, just like an oncidium, and it was having the best time of its life. We're going to talk a little bit about potting medium at the end of this video. And lastly, here we have two more Tolumnias that are sadly the last remainders of a order that I made about 2 years ago, again from Orchids and More. Do you remember when I was using those seashell containers? Yeah, it was around that time when I ordered them. There are no IDs and they arrived in really poor condition to me. I sadly managed to save only 2 of them, these ones, and what you hear in the back is Maya eating very messily. So this one is doing the greatest, as you can see. They don't really have super big roots though. Nothing like the Tolumnias that you saw earlier. This one has been super fussy and had some issues with her crowns in the past. Now she's doing okay. But yeah, I wasn't super happy with that order, and being that I don't know what they are, I'm not even sure if they're doubles of anything that I have. But they're still around. They just took a heck of a long time to recover since they were so stressed. But I do hope there's something that I don't already have. So this is my current Tolumnia collection. If I'm not mistaken, I have 13. Lucky number, eh? And I'm currently displaying them on the southern shelf of my greenhouse, but since there's so many now, I'm considering introducing some sort of hanging shelf that I can put on my wire shelves and make everything a little bit more efficient. Since they're not very tall plants, it's just a waste of space if I just put them on the shelves, because I'm just gonna have a lot of space on top of them not being used. So if I can find something with multiple tiers and something that I can hang, something that I can stack, I don't know, I would be happy. So I'm gonna go to the home improvement stores, bathroom and kitchen sections, and see if they have something. And well, what do you know, one day later, and I did actually manage to find something at IKEA. So I'll take down some of these Tolumnias to show you exactly what this is. It is actually a hang-on tray which is made for a different piece of furniture. It is called Sunersta. There you have it, and it's made for a sort of sink or a set of iron furniture. On the back it has some hooks, and it just happens to make a perfect fit with the Omar wire shelf, which is also from IKEA. But this type of shelves, I've seen them in many of your guys' video. I think you can find them in various different places around the world. In my region, I can only find them at IKEA. I don't know if this can fit to other wire shelves. I don't see why not. But with the Omar wire shelf, it makes a perfect fit. There you go, and it's super sturdy. Now I will actually place them on the other side of the shelf because it's kind of shady here since I have all of my Cattleya types and they are actually shading the Tolumnias. But I need to get everybody down and actually pull a little bit to the front of the wire shelf, and that's a story for a different day. Now, as I promised, let's talk a little bit about the potting situation, medium, and the setup overall, because these orchids do happen to have a little bit of a bad reputation, which in my opinion is totally undeserved. And that is that they absolutely hate to stay moist, and they do so much better if they just dry out super fast within a day. That would be ideal. So the best way to grow them is mounted actually, or in clay pots with very little medium, things that allow for drying out within a day. So pretty much what this translates to is you'd better have time every day to water your Tolumnia, otherwise it's just not gonna do good. And in my experience, that's absolutely not true, and here's the proof. And while I did try to meet all of these requirements that other growers or articles have mentioned, all I did was just make my life a little more hassling, and in return stress out the orchids themselves as well with dehydration issues. What I found with these orchids is that they behave just like any other epiphytic orchid because, in essence, they are epiphytic orchids. Yes, sure, we can differentiate between oncidiums and cattleyas and say that cattleyas are much more tolerant to drought. But in essence, both are epiphytes and they do require the same things, just in different quantities. If the vast majority of your orchids do very well mounted, then chances are you're going to have great success with Tolumnias as well, because you already have the environment which will help you, or you have the availability or know-how to care for your orchids properly mounted without having the help of the medium. But if the vast majority of your epiphytic orchids do absolutely fantastic potted, then chances are Tolumnias will do fantastic potted as well. As for their drought tolerance degree, I honestly find them to be in between Oncidiums and Cattleyas. With a Cattleya, I can go for a whole week with the Cattleya being bone dry, and when I will look at the root system, I will still see those nice green root tips growing, because that's what Cattleyas are good at. If I put an Oncidium through the same treatment, I'm not gonna like what I will see. Well, Tolumnias are in between. No, they don't require as much moisture as an Oncidium, but I would definitely not leave a Tolumnia bone dry for an entire week and expect the roots to be in perfect condition. So when caring for Tolumnias, just keep in mind that they're in between. They're like most other epiphytic orchids. Oncidiums are close to the moist extreme and Cattleyas are close to the drought extreme. Most other orchids we grow fall somewhere in between, just like Tolumnias. So in your setup and medium choice, do consider this aspect and consider what makes you have an easier life with orchids. If you're very good at growing them bare rooted, mounted, in moss, in bark, whatever it is, then chances are the Tolumnias will do great as well. Just always keep in mind that epiphytic plants need air. And no matter what epiphytic plant you grow, you need to provide air. But when it comes to drying out and moisture levels, well, each orchid is a little bit different, and Tolumnias are in between. They are in no way super drought tolerant. So bottom line, if you've ever considered Tolumnias but you were kind of put off by the fact that it's mounted or the highway, just forget about that. That's nonsense. Grow them how you successfully grow your other epiphytic orchids, and chances are everything will be okay. So with that said, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Hope you've enjoyed it. I cannot wait to have massive blooms with my Tolumnias. Hopefully, fingers crossed, it's gonna be this year, at least for a part of them. I already know that some will have to go through quite a lot of time of recoup, and I'm looking at these guys, but some are looking already very, very established. So there's no reason why they won't bloom. I will share with you down below some other videos with Tolumnias in bloom. Also, I have a care tutorial if you're interested in knowing more about them. And yeah, don't be afraid of them. They're small, they're tiny, easy to grow, and super suited for home conditions. You don't need a greenhouse for them, which is awesome. So with that said, thank you so much for watching. Once again, you know the drill. Like or dislike this video below. Subscribe to my channel for regular orchid videos, tutorials, experiments, updates, all sorts of other orchid subjects. And I will see you guys Friday for a brand new series on my channel. So I'll see you then. Bye!